Hey, very exciting, not only because this is the second day of my very first lockdown in New Zealand, although I'm a bit of a lockdown expert, actually. I had 9 months in Malaysia last year.
Wow.
But I'm actually excited because I'm talking to someone in New Zealand who's also in lockdown. So we're kind of going through this experience together. Welcome to the podcast, Anna. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Tracy. It's nice to meet you, at last. It's great. We've had a few emails.
Yeah. Well,
But
actually, we didn't meet over Instagram like about 90% of my guests.
no, you managed to track me down. I've been tracked down a little bit lately. I have to say I'm a little bit of a recluse. I'm 57, so I'm not quite, it's not my second language, social media.
Yeah.
I have a few little friends here and there, and I send post-holiday snaps. But writing this article has actually kind of propelled me out into the world, which is a little bit of a shock. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to dial back for our listeners so that they know how it was that we came to connect, because I usually sort of share that. So what's actually happened with us is there's quite a lot of parallels. So I became a guest on one of the Facebook groups called Menopause Over Martinis, which is actually founded in Wellington. And Wellington is my home, my original home. Now I live in Mount Maunganui. So for anyone listening from around the world, Wellington is the capital city of New Zealand. It's windy, it's fabulous for coffee, it's got the arts, it's a really, really cool place to be. It's got a good vibe, good theatre. Lord of the Rings, the original one, was filmed and produced there. I met my husband there, so lots of really cool things about Wellington.
Great.
And now I've relocated back to Mount Maunganui after 20 years in Asia, in Malaysia. And I was obviously going through this whole what the heck's happening with menopause and how does anyone get any information here? And I joined this group on Facebook called Menopause Over Martinis, and that's founded in Wellington. They posted an article that you wrote, Anna.
Wow.
And I read the article and I was like, this is amazing. This woman has literally written the journey I'm about to start, which is how to get HRT in New Zealand.
Yeah, and what a journey.
And so I just like to open up for the listeners, and this is where I shut down and you share your story, Anna, is just tell us a little bit about yourself. I've written down a few things that you're a social activist. You want to share a little bit about that you're a mum of 2 kids with a big 21-year age gap. That's awesome. I want to hear about that. And you're a writer. So
I will put that all together, and a counsellor as well, and I manage a counselling organisation. I'll try and give you a 5-minute brief history of my life. Actually, I live in Palmerston North now, and I've lived here for 35 years in the same house, which is actually quite remarkable, and I'll probably die here. I'm not planning on going anywhere. It has an airport and a hospital, and for those people not in New Zealand, it's a couple of hours drive to Wellington, so I go down to Wellington quite a lot to get my Wellington hit. I also like Mount Maunganui. It's just a stunning place, and I'm a little bit jealous that you're there, but never mind. Here I am in Palmerston North. So I have been interested in women's health for many, many, many years, actually. My first child was born when I was 21, actually, and I was living in London. And it was an unexpected surprise, let's just say. And I was a single parent. So I was living in London when my son was 1. I decided to come back to New Zealand because I didn't have any qualifications at all. So I thought, well, I'll come back here and I'll go to university, and that will give me something to do while I'm being a mother at 21. So I did. And I was really interested in women's health, I guess women's issues. My degree is actually in social anthropology and women's studies. And within that anthropology, I became really interested in health, and especially how different cultures approach health. So studied a lot about health, women's health, finished my degree, had a degree. You can't get a job with a degree, a BA, I mean, you could, but not really. You have a lot of good ideas. So I thought, what shall I do now? And my son was still quite young. And so the local polytech had started kind of a natural therapies diploma. So I trained in shiatsu and massage therapy. So I set myself up in business and I massaged just women because I worked from home, and I felt that was safe, because you do get some dodgy calls from men wanting a massage. So just women, and it was therapeutic and it was health. And then when I was massaging them, they would start telling me their stories, and I thought, I don't really know how to, to manage this. So I thought, I know, I'll do like a counselling skills course, just to learn about listening and skills and so forth. But then I discovered I was quite good at it. So I carried on doing a counselling diploma, and then I sort of ended up being a counsellor. And somewhere in that, I ended up about 22 years ago back in the small town in the Rangitikei, where I completely failed at high school. And I established a non-profit community counselling organisation. So we provide counselling for free to our local district. So I guess that's the linking in the social activism. I believe counselling should be available to anybody who wants it for free. So I've worked hard to make that happen. And for the counsellors to be well paid, of course. I don't expect them to do it for free, but, and good working conditions too. And I guess I'm just the sort of person, I'm a little bit probably ahead of my time, probably from, doing sort of women's studies in the 1980s. So I do tend to just be that a bit pushy. I've had to be, just in survival, really.
Oh, yeah. Something else we have in common.
Yes. Push.
Apparently, since I've been back to New Zealand, many people have said that about me.
Yeah. Well, you just have to. You just sometimes banging your head against a brick wall. And as you know from this article, I've done the writing part. I've done writing on and off in my life, and I have to say I hadn't written anything for 8 years or published anything for 8 years. Not because I've been busy, because actually I lead quite a nice life actually. And prior to COVID, we travel a lot. With number 2 child was unexpected and arrived when I was 43. And so I said, well, I'm just going to carry on traveling. So that's what we were doing. So I think, in a sense, COVID got me really focusing on my menopausal symptoms and got me writing again, because I needed a little hobby, really. I think that all that traveling, I think I probably had menopausal symptoms then, but the traveling and the adrenaline that goes with the traveling probably masked a lot of it. So, when the last lockdown hit, I was sort of more in my body and more noticing things, and that's kind of where it started for me. Yeah.
Okay, it's interesting because we both had babies late. I had my son at 42.
Wow. Okay.
So he's 8 now, but they call us geriatric pregnancies.
I know,
right?
Geriatric. Yes, we're very geriatric. I don't think either of us look geriatric.
Not at all, and I don't feel that either. No. Now that I'm on HRT.
Yes. Yeah. How's that going for you? I kind of
2.5 weeks in, but I started blogging about it, so people can find that on sexyaging.com. But I really, really was encouraged by what you wrote. And so your article through the spin-off, which is an online site, like a news site or articles and stuff. So I'm going to share it in the show notes so that other people can find it too, because it was really quite an eye-opening moment for me to realize that, hey, this journey that I'm about to take, which is your normal average Kiwi lady, maybe this actually probably applies to a lot of countries around the world, not just New Zealand. Not the UK though.
Not the UK.
Because they're doing really well.
Massive revolution. And I can, talk about that when I talk about my article, because there was a lot of things that we just needed to edit it out, because there's a word limit on the article. So there was a few things that we just chose that didn't go in. And one of those was, I said, there's a massive revolution happening in the UK, and how quiet it was here. But particular words, but there is. Well,
it is quiet, and it is amazing in the UK. It's quiet for us, but we are kind of the warriors in this space.
Exactly, and the tipping point. That's what I also said, that we're the tipping point here. And I didn't mention that.
If you could share for those, just a brief, not a brief, but talk as long as you like, actually. Do you want to tell us, just give us your, verbal story of how you came to this point? So our common story is that we are trying to access and understand perimenopause and the symptoms that we're experiencing and just daily life, and how we accessed HRT, how we came to find out about it. So that's quite a lot. On your marks, get set, go.
Okay. Well, I mean, because of my health, and my mum, you may agree with this too, it's when you're kind of healthy in your 20s and 30s, and you can sort of say things like, well, HRT, I would never take HRT. I'm not going to need to take HRT. And because, I've been quite late coming into menopause, I still had that thinking. And, I think there's a little part of me that I think there was an arrogant part of me that actually thought, I don't even think I'm going to go through menopause. Like I'm in my 50s, I'm still having my period. There's no menopause for me. Everybody else can have menopause, not me. So that wasn't a conscious part of my brain. It was just like, something that was just probably there that I'm realizing in hindsight. So I did, it was sort of lockdown and I was going for walks. Palmerston North, where I live, is very flat. And I was just going for walks, say 5K in the day. And my body was just aching. I just couldn't believe it. I just thought, why is this? I'm used to walking up hills and huffing and puffing, and here I am going on a flat walk, and I can get home, I can barely move. I didn't know menopause caused joint pains at all. I said in my article, I thought that menopause basically, my periods would stop and I'd get hot flushes, and I hadn't had any hot flushes. So I had the joint pains. Then I began, and I also said in my article, I was eating a lot of cake. Now I don't actually have a sweet tooth, but it was like my day was propelled by cake. Now I've since actually heard, I think Louise talking to somebody about that, and Louise Newson from the UK, who's leading our revolution in menopause, and it's about your body's looking for estrogen in fat, not good fat. So therefore, my body was actually looking for estrogen in cake. So in my brain was actually fantasizing all the time about cake and when I was going to eat the cake and what that was about. So that was strange. That was, just not who I am. The brain fog was like going through life with a handbrake on, and it was just diabolical. I couldn't think. I'm used to using all my senses, my instinct, going about my day, multiple things, working mother, you can multitask all the time. And nothing was happening. It was like that, that spinning beach ball that's going around and around and around, and then just there was nothing. The loss of joy, that is absolutely huge. And, because I'm a counsellor, and, counsellors, we spend many, many years gazing at our navel and at other people's navel, or encouraging other people to gaze at their navel. So, I know what depression is. I know what anxiety is. I know that what I was feeling was nothing like that. It was just like I just didn't care about anything. It's like I didn't have any emotions at all. And if somebody said to me, "Oh, you've won lotto," I'd be just like, "Oh yeah," or aliens have come down and taken away the family. Well, yeah, okay, there was just nothing. There was nothing, and I thought this is really strange as well. Like I don't understand really what's going on with me. Fatigue, getting out and going to the toilet like 6 times a night. Somewhere in there, I discovered Dr. Louise Newson, who is leading the revolution in the UK. I don't know how, it was probably a late night kind of looking online for anything about menopause. And I discovered her, and I found a list of symptoms. And I thought, I've got all of these, well, not all of them, but a lot of them, and it just all suddenly makes sense. So, but more than anything, tied in with that is, as a counsellor, I began to realise that I think a lot of the women who we were getting referred to us for counselling from the doctors, because, I have a chance to see not people's intense medical notes. What generally comes through is say Angela, has presented today, and, she's like 53 and she's used to go running and can't, go running, and is fatigued all the time and really tearful and can't seem to get motivated with life, that sort of thing. But until I was actually going through this myself, I didn't kind of identify, I didn't put it together. And that was what was so amazing, is that if here I am as a professional person who've been a counsellor for 25 years, and I haven't made this connection, like, is this me, or is this something like hugely missing? And I would go to work for about 8 months, and I would ask my colleagues, and a lot of them were younger than me. And I said, do you talk to your clients about menopause? Do you ask them if they're menopausal? And they say, no. And then I thought, oh, there really is something really huge here that is missing. And I started writing down notes to myself. And as I said, I hadn't actually written or published anything for about 8 years because it's quite a big process writing anything. But I was writing all these notes and I thought, all right, I need to write something for our Professional Association of Counsellors and just point out, and because in my years being a counsellor, I've actually never seen anything come through in any newsletters or writing about menopause and counselling. So I thought I'm going to write something for them just to, so they can just start asking all their clients, are you menopausal? What are you going through? What are your symptoms? Here's a bunch of symptoms. And I was writing away. And then I thought, no, this is bigger than just going to counsellors. I need to write it just for ordinary people, ordinary women. So that's when I started writing it, and you've seen the article. And then I got really nervous because I hadn't actually written anything and published it for about 8 years. And I was I just thought I'll send it to the spin-off because I like their politics. So I sent it there, and I think Catherine replied to me like really, really quickly and said, this is great, this is really interesting. But then there was a hold up with it for about 6 weeks because I'm a non-medical writer and I'd written a lot, especially about the testosterone, which we can probably talk a little bit about later. They had to get it all checked out. So anyway, then it was published, and still even then I thought maybe I've just missed, maybe it's me, maybe I've just been asleep or under a rock or something and I've completely missed something. And then suddenly I got all this feedback and people were saying, wow, you've just spoken to me. This is about my experience. There was people tracking me down at work and saying, thank you so much. These were my experiences. One woman, contacted me and said, what you wrote about, you can't prepare a meal, you had to buy ready cooked meals. It was like, I get my food bag, but I couldn't even cope with the fact that a box of food was arriving in my house. I couldn't. I was exhausted. I was shattered. So I started researching companies that just bring meals around, and I just put them in the freezer and then I put them in the microwave. But I had to, tell myself to get up, to get off the couch, to get moving, because I just really couldn't move. So I decided, I think, with listening to all the podcasts by Louise, and I thought I'm going to try HRT. I can try it. I just experiment. So I thought, being a professional person and an educated person, and I feel that I had a good relationship, with my doctor. I have to say though that my regular doctor was on leave, so I had asked to see just a a woman doctor. I wanted to see a woman doctor, and I said, is there anyone experienced with menopause? And they gave me a woman doctor. She was lovely, but she suddenly decided she could only give it to me for hot flushes. Now, by that time, I was having a few hot flushes, but they didn't bother me. I know that they're huge for a lot of women, but for me, I don't think they were as bad. They would come and they would go, and I would, flutter and make a bit of a fuss just for show. But I wasn't really bothered. I could live with the hot flushes, but it was everything else that I've talked about, the loss of joy, the brain fog, the fatigue, the overeating, the lethargy, the getting up in the night to go to the toilet 6 times, a low level anxiety, all of those things. And then here she is saying, no, I'm going to give it to you for hot flushes. So I said, I get hot flushes too, which I did. And then that's how I got my prescription. So that's the beginning of it. That's the estrogen. Yeah. And I put that little estrogen patch on, and honestly, it was miraculous. You've got your patch?
Mine's right here. Right here, yeah. So if anyone's watching YouTube,
wow.
It's just around my underwear line, actually.
Yeah.
And then I just alternate weeks.
Yep.
You can't even see it. I realize when it comes to summer, if I do wear a bikini, nobody will know.
I used to have it on my tummy, and then I watched Davina McCall's little video, and she put it on the side, and I thought, why didn't I think of that? That's great. So that's where I wear it now. It's just so easy. I've never had an issue with it. Some people have them coming off, but no, that never comes off.
Yeah.
And look, honestly, within 2 or 3 days, people were saying to me, you look different, you sound different, it's like joy returned. And I want to say something more about that loss of joy, because it's it's such a strange thing when you lose that. And it's not like, I have this huge, huge life, but it's little things like flowers, like a bunch of flowers, like appreciating the colors in a bunch of flowers, clouds, a coffee, what's happening tomorrow, just really small things that you like in life. Because if you lose joy, then you lose hope, and then you think, what life got for me,
and then it's all downhill from there.
It's all downhill from here.
And I would say, actually, just from speaking with you, Anna, that that when you touch on losing joy as something that really has impacted you, because you are a traveler and you get out and about into the world, because it's about experiences that bring you these memories and these joy. I mean, you've got that heightened taste for it. So to not have the taste for it, or to lose the taste for it, even like the little things, I appreciate the little things as much. That's actually really freaking scary, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is. And to think that is caused by the loss of estrogen, something as really simple as the natural decline in estrogen, progesterone, testosterone.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. How could I not know that? Did you know that? How much did you know about that?
Well, I'm in the fitness industry, and it took me a couple of years of symptoms before I thought, well, what the heck's going on? But I had actually started studying the science of longevity, not the science of aging for women, before I came to this place of perimenopause, where I was like, well, I made such significant changes in my lifestyle based around wanting to have a long life, a long and healthy life. So I think in that way, some of my symptoms were masked or not as bad, because I had made massive lifestyle changes, like sleep became a number one thing for me, decreasing stress, eating anti-inflammatory style diet, not having coffee after 12 o'clock. So I started to do all these things based around what do the people in the blue zone countries do, and I based my journey for longevity. But then the symptoms really kicked in, like the anxiety, low-level anxiety. I wouldn't have ever said that I was depressed, but there were moments where I was wondering what the heck is going on. The brain fog and the joint pain, those two things for me were the main reason why I started to explore HRT, because after fixing everything else, and I still going to bed and lying in bed and feeling like a 90-year-old woman while I'm lying down because it's hurting, I'm like, no, this is not happening. I'm going to do what Anna did.
I know. Yeah. And just, it's just amazing. It's just amazing, Yeah. And then, so I've been taking the estrogen and progesterone for about maybe 9 or 10 months. Now, I kind of regularly go on the Balance app, and I saw you there the other day, but the app was glitchy, so I couldn't go back and chat to you. And quite a few of the women on there were talking about testosterone, and Louise had talked about testosterone, and she'd had guests too on her podcast that talked about testosterone. And I just thought, I want to try testosterone too. I mean, it seems
actually the testosterone conversation, the first time I ever had a question mark was after reading your article. Now I'm curious. So I have started to dive a little bit into finding out about it, but how about you share with us, like, what's your experience with testosterone?
Oh, it's fabulous. It's just, Okay. So it's like another thing that got cut from the original article. I think I said it's like the icing on the cake, going back to the cake metaphor, if estrogen is kind of the cake, testosterone is that really nice icing on the top. I wanted it for brain fog, really, and brain clarity. I mean, certainly estrogen gives you a lot back. I think estrogen gave me back joy and myself, and to really appreciate things. But testosterone has just really given me my brain back. I feel like I'm back. I feel like my brain's working like a 20 or 30-year-old. That's why I wanted it. And for, I guess, a bit more energy, and it works in that way. I notice it when I work out, I'm actually kind of feeling better working out. But it's only given for hypoactive sexual desire disorder. So it's fairly hilarious.
That's shocking.
It's absolutely totally shocking. It's because if you go to the Australian Menopause Association, they've got a little a video on it. It's actually for, health professionals, but they pretty much are saying this is the only way, that we can prescribe testosterone for you. But everybody I've talked to, including some health professionals in the UK, will say it's great for brain clarity. And that's why I wanted it. But I could only get it for a label disorder called hypoactive sexual desire disorder.
I'm just making a note.
Crazy. It's just like, that's, in the article I say it was so hard getting it. I asked the GP if I could have it, and she just looked stunned. Like, nobody has ever asked me for testosterone before. What are you talking about? And so there was a no, absolutely there. And so I was due to go to the gynecologist because I've got an ovarian cyst. It just sits there. They monitor it year after year. I don't want it taken out because I don't want to put myself through that trauma. But I meet with her once a year, and we say no. I say no. And I said to her, look, I'm taking HRT, I'm doing estrogen, progesterone, it's going well. I would really like to try testosterone, but it's an unlicensed medicine. Could you please write me a prescription? And she looked pretty stunned. It was like, oh, I don't know. And she looks it up, but she didn't really know anything about it. She knew really nothing. And that's crazy. So this is a woman who's pretty much in charge of women's health in the Mid-Central District. She doesn't know anything about prescribing testosterone for women. So I told her all about Androfem, which is made by an Australian company. It is licensed in Australia. And then I phoned the pharmacist while I was actually in the room with her, and the pharmacist talked to her and said, I'll send you some stuff, but something went wrong with the email address and it didn't get sent. And then the gynecologist wrote to me 3 weeks later and said, no, I'm not prescribing you, it's too risky. So then I rang the pharmacist, and the pharmacist sent it to me, and then I sent it to her, and then I followed up, and I went push. And in the end, she said, you can have it if you have hypoactive sexual desire disorder. But I had to fill in this form. That's great. Okay. It's like, I get a test. You get a test. In the past, was your level of sexual desire or interest good and satisfying to you? Has there been a decrease in your level of sexual desire? Are you bothered by your decreased level of sexual desire? And would you like your level of sexual desire to increase? And please circle the factors that you think might be contributing towards this. So I answered yes to everything.
Well, as any perimenopausal or menopausal woman would.
Menopausal is going to.
Yeah.
It's totally insane. There's just so much wrong with that. With that I have to have a disorder in order to try testosterone. That is the questionnaire. That is the question. That's what it's based on.
Well, that kind of matches up with being a symptom, a low libido for perimenopause, and that bugs people, and it affects their relationships, and it affects their mood, and I mean, so can't we deal with that as well?
I know, it's so crazy. So anyway,
wow.
So she sent me for a blood test, and then I got a prescription for it. So it is great. I really, really like it. Now, what is really interesting about testosterone, and there is a bunch of warnings in my article you probably came across. I actually didn't have those warnings in. They got added. My article actually went to a menopause specialist, and understandably, I might have been a little bit gung-ho. There hasn't been research done on it. This is how much nobody cares about older women and menopausal issues. Actually, there has not been research done on women taking testosterone. Can you just believe that? It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if men had low testosterone, how much research would be done?
Exactly. Maybe that's why it's called, because it's called menopause and menstrual cycle and mental health.
It's like they would have a testosterone machine on every corner, wouldn't they? If men had low testosterone, but for women, we have to say, I've got a disorder, and then try and find somebody to write you a script. Anyway, the good news is that I actually, when I say I'm a social activist, well, I saw the gynecologist the other day. She has been down to my doctors. I can now get a script for testosterone from my doctor because they've had a big meeting in a little workshop, and now the doctor is prescribing it.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's great. So push.
Yeah.
Other women, I think I'm a bit of a guinea pig, probably in the region, so other women will be able to get testosterone to try.
Oh, that's so good. So my experience is very similar with the GP, who's lovely. And when I went to the clinic, I also asked for a woman-centric doctor that understood menopause. And the ladies at the front desk were, for me, obviously menopausal, because they were like, okay. Someone asking specifically for the type of doctor that they wanted. And a very, very similar experience, the conversation with me kind of saying, here's all the things that I'm experiencing. Here's the, what I want to do about it. Can you help me? And I had to jump quite a few hoops before I could actually get it. So, but she was very, very open and looking up online and checking out Dr. Newson like I'd recommended. And so I think she'd done her homework by the time I came back the third time.
The third time, yeah?
Yeah, it took me 3 times. So,
wow.
Yeah. But so testosterone, I think this is going to be exciting. I think that she, the next time I rock up, she's going to be, okay, where are we going with this?
Yeah, it'll be really interesting, because there's just really nobody taking it. Because when I asked the pharmacist, she said, well, I'm only prescribing about 50 people a month. But I talked to the pharmacist the other day because I had a new order, and the pharmacist, I said to the pharmacist, I don't know if you've seen the article. She said, oh, it's you. She said, people have been emailing me, asking me about testosterone. And
that's awesome.
Your article. So this is how much the article is circulating and how much people are wanting, to find out more.
I mean, I just know that I read your article and my heart was racing while I was reading it, because it had such an impact. And I know that many women around the world, and obviously this was New Zealand centric article, but I have quite a few women overseas, and I know that the Australian listeners will be really happy to know that they can get testosterone with what with the information that you've provided. So I just really, really grateful that you did take pen to paper, that you were brave and bold enough to write about your experience, because you've helped so many women. You've given a voice to a lot of women here in New Zealand, and I'm just really grateful for you, Anna.
Oh.